Hey, it's James from All Hail Internal Combustion. Like you didn't know what channel you were watching. But back to work on the 350. Got it all stripped down. Now I'm gonna go ahead and remove the freeze slash core plugs, the oil galley plugs. I'm gonna pop the cam bearings out of it, and this thing is pretty much almost ready to take a trip to the pressure washer. I did get in here yesterday and get the heavy oil and munge buildup, most of it that was in there. That was gasoline and like an hour with a wire brush. Got the back pads of the block cleaned up. Once again, gasoline, wire brush. But get you guys set up on the tripod and go dig out my tools, and let's get the plugs out of this thing and get moving on this. I want to drive this car this year. Alright, so first we could take care of these freeze plugs. Freeze plugs are relatively easy, and yeah, I know they're not technically freeze plugs. Core plugs, holes they needed to make this thing. Get yourself a flat chisel and a hammer. And here you got a cylinder bore that's behind it. So banging directly in at the top of the bottom isn't really the best thing. All you gotta do is tap your old plug in. So you see we got it knocked out. Pry it down a little bit so you got some room to get onto it. Get a pair of channel locks, and you want to pull it up towards the hole. And you just kind of rotate it out. There you go. And there's freeze plug. As you can see, another one of my world famous engines that had water in the coolant system. But I already got my two front ones out. Move on to the side. Now on our oil gallery plugs, we gotta attack these a little bit differently. Usually what I do is drill a small hole in there, less than 1/8 of an inch. And I'll take and run a Phillips screw into it. You can do this with a self-tapping. I just didn't feel like digging out my self-tapping screws. Well, leave a little bit of it sticking out and break out the old cat's claw. Get underneath of it. Pops right out. Sometimes after guys will rebuild these engines, they'll put a peen mark here. There's one there, and one there. I guess that would be factory in this case. Like I've never seen that peen mark save it, and honestly I've never seen one of these blow itself out or work its way out unless it was really put in poorly. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my screw back from the other cap that I took off. And go ahead in here and get this third one. Leave some sticking up. And go ahead and work this right on out of there. So there's our oil galley plugs in the front. I have to get a couple tools together to do the ones in the back, because what we're going to do is we're going to take a rod, run it through the oil galley passages, and there's 3 plugs on the back. And these are actually thread ends, so we're going to be doing that a different way. But I do need to get my straight bar, go through my cam bore, and knock that rear plug out in the back. Then I can set my cam bearing removal tool up and get these cam bearings out of here. Alright, so now what I want to do is I want to knock out my cap in the back here that goes to the camshaft. What I got is just a piece of aluminum pipe we had left over from something. But you're going to run that up your cam bore. Make sure that you're going all the way and hitting that cap in the back. And that cap is out. And what I noticed on this cap compared to an older small block Chevy is that this cap has a dimple in the center of it. Now, from what I remember with the older Chevys, they're like a freeze plug. They've kind of got a tapered head in them. But this one has a dome in it. And I'm assuming that's because this is a roller cam block. I need to look that up and make sure of it. So now I'm going to grab my cam bearing installation tool. Get these bearings out of here. Alright, so generally what you got on a cam bearing installation tool is you've got this outer sleeve that will fit up against your cam bearing. So your cam bearing would basically be riding there. You tighten this mandrel down to get a snug fit on your bearing. And then you would go ahead and feed this in, and I've already taken the first one out. But you spread this out, knocks the bearing loose, and you grab it from inside of your bottom end, because you have access to your cam journals from underneath it here. It just makes it easier rather than having it drop out and hit the floor when it's spun the other way. So I'm going to get set up, and I'm going to go ahead and knock the next ones out. A little bit of a better angle as to what I'm doing. So I'm feeding my cam bearing tool in through the front of the block, going into my second bearing. And basically all you do is whack on the end of the tool. And it takes your bearing out. So now we can back this up, pull our bearing, and go right on to the next one. Keep going on down the line. Now I'm going to be doing number 4 and number 5. And that is all the cam bearings in this block. There's number 4. And number 5. And if you can see in here, that's pretty much why I got rid of these cam bearings, because they are completely destroyed on the inside because of sitting for too long with water in the block. There's a lot of metal inclusion in there from the bearing that got ate up, and these things are just toast. And cam bearings really aren't that expensive. The expensive part is the tool, because they run around $100. You can get them on Amazon, and I've seen people buy them, and if you're not a professional engine builder, those will work. And now that I got the cam bearings out, this thing is almost ready to put on a hoist and get loaded into the back of the truck to go get power washed. And for those of you not overly familiar with cam bearing installation tool, this is one we picked up at Carlisle. This is what was actually holding my bearing. And as you can see, it's wrapped in rubber, and it'll flex to get bigger to take up the slot between the bearing. Now there is also another one of these on the arbor that has 4 fingers that when you tighten it up, it gets wider because there's a cone here, and there's also a cone here, so that makes that fit into this tighter to push everything out to grab a hold of your cam bearings. And I've got a couple extra of the bushings that go around the outside here. And this cone is for when you're installing your cam bearings. You would put this cone up against your outside journal, put your bar through it, and this keeps you centered while you're putting your new cam bearings into it. But there's also a lot you got to know. You got to figure out what your orientation of your oil holes on your cam bearing are going to be, because if you put those in the wrong orientation, things will go wrong really quickly. But that's a cam bearing installation tool. Alright, so I got my rear core plugs out. And I've also got my 3 cam galley plugs out. And these things can be a real pain sometimes. Usually what I do is I've got bins of big Allen wrenches. I'll usually take them and cut them down. These are, they take a 1/4 inch drive socket, but I wouldn't recommend doing that because 90% of the time you'll snap it off. So make something like this, put a cheater bar on it, and give it pressure and see if it feels like it wants to come out. If not, you might have to take a little heat to this and heat it up. But you can get them out. Whole idea is not to completely strip the crap out of them. These are going to be getting new ones because 2 of them gave me a problem. So I have got this thing completely stripped down and ready to go get pressure washed. This will be the first of quite a few trips to the pressure washer, because right now I'm just doing it to be able to look and not have a bunch of grease in my way to evaluate the engine and see what I need to do to the bores and where I need to clean up and all that. So off to the pressure washer I will go. This is the it's going to be the end of this video. I'm not going to show you all me pressure washing the motor, but I will go through some stuff to look for when I get it back. So once again, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. All hail internal combustion. See y'all next time.